Peace, peace, peace. Shout out to everybody out there, man. It's your boy Pro Black Politics. Smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Subscribe to the channel if you're into pro black content. This is an awesome clip, and it really stuck out because I've been thinking about doing a lot with this. Just the thought process of the people in this country. This brother right here, this brother right here, the saint in the center. I'm gonna play this recording. I think I couldn't find the original podcast. I got this off of Dat Shack 2 times. I'll go check him out, man. He have 416K subscribers. He do good. He do good content. But anyway, I'm gonna play this little bit of this clip, and then I'm gonna respond to it because it just really goes with my thought process as far just what I'm observing, and I'm just gonna play the clip, man. And y'all, tell me what you think.
So they're using anecdotal lies, but to the point of the guilt. White folks don't feel any guilt. And one thing that we have to start doing is what you guys didn't pull out. And I was listening, mind you, this was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it so much that I decided to react to it as much as I can. So my commendations to all of you. But when she's talking about black fatigue, she's essentially suggesting that there's something wrong in the black genetics. Our DNA provides a propensity to violence. We're fundamentally bad people. And when you say there's something wrong with the DNA, you can't train people out of that. You can't educate them out of that. And she was even sly enough to say, not you, Cooley, you're cool. Which I was like, what is this, a TV show? Like, this is crazy. So the fact of the matter is that when they have identified your genetics as problematic, now they're providing the explanation as to why you can be arrested, because they're doing it for the good and the peace of the society. Because you're the devil, you're the problem, so they're just going to get you out the way because we tried to reform them. We gave these black folks 300 years in America and they still ain't acting right. The problem with these people is this. They'll point out the violence in our genetics and they'll use their crime.
Let's stop it really fast. That may sound crazy, but I'm gonna show another clip or two that support exactly what this man is saying. As far as them using what they consider as black fatigue as an excuse to attempt to treat us a certain kind of way. Because it's not just one white person saying that. It's a lot of these. What are they called? The talking heads. These Turning Point USA spokespeople. A lot of the far right. What are they called? Catholic far right or Christian far right, whatever they call it, something like they're all saying very similar things. But I'm gonna let him finish.
Data, but they never acknowledge their crimes because their crimes are not recorded as such. One of the things I wanted to ask her is, how many people have black folks killed in 2025? She wouldn't know the answer, but I'd give her time. She'd go check the answer. Then I say, okay, how many folks have white people killed in 2025? And then she'd go check the crime statistics, and then she'd come back with some very low number. And I say, okay, well, don't forget the 250,000 people with the Russia-Ukraine situation. Don't forget the 100,000 people with the Israel-Palestine situation on. It's like when they commit murder, it's not a crime. For example, Donald Trump, people.
Are we ready for this party?
Guests are on their way and food and drinks were just delivered.
This crime, whether you're talking about the Ukraine-Russia war, which is a war between whites, you're talking about Israel, Palestine, and America, a war started by whites, or you talk about something closer to home when you see those folks in those boats leaving out from Venezuela, allegedly, who are supposedly narcotraficantes and they're drug mules. Why didn't they get a trial? But why didn't Muammar Gaddafi get a trial? Why didn't Osama bin Laden get a trial? So they're
Oh,
Saint,
well.
Saint, real quick, Saint. Your joints cutting out.
This is the brother who platform it is. Let me switch that up a little bit. I'll have him on the big screen. So what this brother's saying, right? One, with the violence, okay? I think it all goes into white people having a stronger tendency to be delusional or insane on a certain level. Because I've noticed, and well, one second, let me find this video really quick to support what this brother said, and then I'm gonna find some more, because it's just everything's making sense. And I don't say this jokingly. I'm not trying to, a lot of people say stupid shit to try to discourage white people. Like, I'm not doing that at all. I'm saying, okay, like even with the Asians on a certain level, yes, white people excel in science and math. They're very creative. They push innovation on the planet, right? Maybe you could say that or you can say, I think you could definitely say that the Japanese or the Chinese, Asian groups are also, like, they on par, right? But the like a lot of where we at in science and technology is because of what was going on in England and America with those white scientists in a certain period of time, right? Charles Darwin, theory of evolution, things of that nature. Then you had, Ben Franklin, a lot of them, the inventions. I don't know if I said the right person. Anyway, let me find this clip. Okay, so remember what the brother was saying about them saying there's something wrong with our DNA. It's something in us, right? That and they'll use that to justify treating us a certain kind of way. This is let me check his name really fast. This is pastor, Christian nationalist pastor Brian Suave. Okay, right. So I'm gonna play this video.
The actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than
Whites.
Right.
And whites are significantly greater, 60% compared to 13% of
Percentage
the
of the population, yeah.
So if you take that, and then you took a law like Deuteronomy 21, which is a just law that God enacted through Moses. The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child they're coming up into their manhood, and they're rebellious, they don't listen. He lists some characteristics, and even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the fathers to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son, and then they stone him to death. They kill him.
And an armed robber would certainly be one of those.
Oh, absolutely. Armed robber, all the ghetto culture.
Violent crimes.
Basically, take ghetto culture, it would describe this to a T. If you did that over 3 generations, how much violent crime would you have in the 3rd and 4th generation? Much, much less.
The actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than
I don't know if I need to explain that, right? Because it's pretty self-explanatory. These are Christian pastors, okay, which again goes to the line of thinking that I have with which, and again, well, here, let me pull something else up really quick, kind of bring it together. Okay, so I just pulled this up from the internet just for an example, right? This is not me making this up. This is something, this is a conversation that's been going on for a long time, right? I don't think it's been put in its proper context, it's by us specifically. So I'm just read a little bit of this. The first paragraph is: the idea that religious beliefs constitute a form of insanity is a subject of ongoing debate. It depends on how one defines both insanity and religion. From a clinical psychiatric perspective, belief in God or religious faith does not classify as a mental illness in standard diagnostic manuals like the DSM-5. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to skip. Okay, however, certain religious experiences can meet the clinical criteria for delusion when they are isolated from cultural context, right? Again, this is just to kind of show that this is a serious question, right? So I'm going down to the bottom right here, I think, right here, okay? Historically, the concept of religious insanity, or let me make sure I look right, or religious madness was used in the 19th century to diagnose individuals whose religious fervor was seen as a pathological seen as pathological. I read that wrong. Particularly during periods of religious revivalism. This diagnosis has since been abandoned, reflecting evolving understandings of both religion and mental health. Some scholars and public figures such as Richard Dawkins have argued that widespread religious belief constitutes a collective delusion, citing the idea that when one person suffers from a delusion, it's called insanity. When many people suffer from a delusion, it's called religion. However, this view is controversial and not supported by mainstream psychiatry, which recognizes that religious beliefs can be a source of psychological resilience and social cohesion. I agree with Richard Dawkins, but I'm gonna finish reading this because it's really important. In summary, while specific religious delusions, especially those involving grandiose or persecutory themes, can be symptoms of mental illness, the broader category of religious belief is not considered a form of insanity. The distinction lies in whether the belief is culturally normative, personally meaningful, and does not impair functioning, or whether it is rigid, isolated from context, and associated with other signs of psychological disorder, right? So there's a whole lot of research in that, but I got more clips, people. Again, I think that, and religion is a huge part of it, because we can go through some things, but if just the simple, here, let me pull something up really quick. This kind of really don't need to, but I'll do it anyway. Just want to point something out real quick, right? So here, we on the map. Africa, right? Asia, Europe. Just start here, keep it real simple. We're talking about religion. Religion in Africa is kind of simple, right? They do some ancestor worship, and they show some appreciation and some reverence towards nature, right? As you get towards upper, right? You leave sub-Saharan Africa, you get up this way towards Egypt. The belief system changes, right? It gets a little different, and these people, they got gods, but they claim to be, I don't know if it was like direct descendants of these gods, or they was just the embodiment of them, right? So you kind of see the switch there in the religious beliefs, and in those group of people who are leaving or going upwards. Again, at that time, probably those people at the tip up here in Egypt were a mixture of people, right? But as you go further, right, into the Levant region, where you get the Bible from, first part of the Bible anyway, you can see another change in religion, in the belief system, and how people went about it. Now again, over and again, this is even, I believe, before a lot of the ancient Greek stuff, right? So, and that's when the Old Testament is supposed to be 2,500 years old. So I'm pretty sure that's older than anything in Greece. So boom, there's that shift. Which was kind of, they say it's like a amalgamation, because there's the Southwest Asian belief systems kind of mixed with what was going on in Northern Africa, and maybe even some of that stuff over there at the tip of Europe, right? So it was a lot of just different, like just the way they thought about gods changed, right? And it got way more complex, and again, after that it gets up here to Europe, and well, I forgot about the Indians and all of that shit. I think they said the Indians is the oldest, but they don't go, like, I don't think they actually claim to be the god, right? So it was pretty much more just like a monotheistic thing. You had the Europeans come about, and they were having sex with their guys. Like, the guy was coming down, having sex with them, and then it, like, shit went crazy when it got to even with the, I guess you could say, those what are those people called in the Sumerians, I believe. It was like the Sumerian people. They were, I think that's where the Anunnaki and all of that shit come from. They was, again, having sex with godlike creatures. Like, they weren't doing that shit down in Africa, right? So you can see, even with the religion, how it just started to get a lot more kind of crazy. You know what I mean? It got crazy. All of this lead up to what we have as the Bible, right? And all kind of shit go on in the Bible, like, got burning bushes and wine the bread and fishes to feed 1,000 people, like all kind of crazy shit going on that these people is led to believe. But again, it's the theme. Everybody believes, right? I think everybody's I think it's just part of evolution. We evolved, like, believing is a survival tactic, right? But when you get up to Asia and Europe in particular, as we gonna see, it gets a lot more spooky, right? It gets way fucking crazy. And I think a lot of that is because, again, as you get up in those areas, there's some research that a lot of people like to point to about a thickness of a cerebral cortex and cranial capacity having something to do with higher intelligence, right? I'm kind of simple to tie the philosophy and the complexity of these religions with the brain, right? Your larger brain's allowing you to think more, so you're thinking more, so you're making up more shit. Now that goes for science and math, but it also goes for religion and delusions on that level, right? So it kind of all makes sense to me. There, I showed some other research. I'm gonna see if I'm gonna pull that up, but basically they found a gene. I should just pull it up really fast. Okay, this is it right here. It's the let me make sure I look right. Okay, yeah. It's the common the DARP32 gene is associated with enhanced cognitive function and increased risk for schizophrenia, suggesting a genetic link between intelligence and mental illness. Now, I couldn't find the older article. I do have it on. There's a bunch of articles on this. But I have one, and they specifically mentioned 3 groups of people that they test for this gene, and one was, I think they did it in, let me double check. For instance, a large scale study of 700,000 Swedish adolescents found that those who excelled academically at age 16 were 4 times more likely to develop bipolar disorder later in life. They tested several groups, but mainly the groups that they tested were Asian and white people. Okay, so there is some genetic evidence and links between intelligence and insanity, but that's on like kind of like a extreme scale, right? It doesn't have to go to, you know, bouncing off of the walls in a crazy house, kind of crazy. Just religion in itself, believing that on a certain level is enough to make you crazy, right? So I spent a little bit too much time on the craziness of religion. I'm gonna play this other video because it goes again. We're talking about why I think white people crazy, and this leads. It all adds up, right? The religion kind of they took it far, right? And it's just like their brains, they can't help it. Their brains, it's like they overanalyze things. I think that's how they came up with the whole transgender identity thing. It's just they have very, very like, you just think about it. 100,000 years in Africa, black people were in Africa. Nobody came up with the trans identity. Europeans came up with it in a few thousand years. It needs to be studied more by us, because I think they say this kind of shit and they put these things out, but they're not telling us the whole truth. Where they are, but they know we're not gonna really look into it. Let me show this video.
Back in Europe, and by extension, America, Canada, and Australia, the indigenous people, cultures, and nations have now lost their right to exist in their own homelands and are now facing extinction. In fact, today it is basically a crime for an area to be too white. No school, no town, no nation is allowed to be white anymore. Yet there are no one pushing for Israel, the Middle East, Africa, or Asia to become multicultural, right? The indigenous people of Europe are treated like second-class citizens in their own countries. The governments are actively working to lift up so-called minorities and push whites down. As an example of the utter hypocrisy, Israel, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Bahrain have refused to take in refugees. So, have you seen any media footage about this? Have you seen anyone calling them racist? While white European women of childbearing age today are a small minority of 2% of the entire world's population, they are encouraged to breed outside of their own race, to throw away thousands of years of ethnic heritage and culture. The result will be that those pure genetics that have been refined in Europe for thousands of years will be gone forever. And Bahrain have refused to take in refugees. So, have you seen any media footage about this? Have you seen anyone calling them racist? While white European women of childbearing age today are a small minority of 2% of the entire world's population, they are encouraged to breed outside of their own race, to throw away thousands of years of ethnic heritage and culture. The result will be that those pure genetics that have been refined in Europe for thousands of years will be gone forever. Back in Europe, and by extension,
We talking about white people being crazy, right? Now, started with the video. The guy was replying to Pearly Things, I think Pearly Things, and her mentioning black fatigue, right? That's where this whole thing's going from, right? These white people have convinced themselves, right? That somehow at some point in America they have been oppressed. White people have not been able to speak their minds, right? That's why I just showed that video. This is a great replacement. Like, where the fuck is that happening at, right? They have whole entire states with 80% white populations. They're the vast majority of people in this country still, by far. But they are preaching and trying to convince other white people that they are under assault. Watch this, and this is check this out. This is Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk, and again, I think I see a lot of his tweets, man, and he does a lot of fear mongering, right? Very intelligent guy. I think that it not necessarily makes him crazy, but like the same belief that makes him think that he can get to Mars and establish a colony is the same belief that's fueling him saying that white people are going to be extinct. He believes it. He believes it. And in the exact same way that white pastor believes that black people need to be punished. They need to just kill off all the ghetto culture for 3 generations and fix these niggas. They believe it. It's bigger than just, I love God, I love Jesus. That's not what we facing, people. That's not what's happening right now. These people, they believe this shit. One more video, okay? Let me go through this post really fast. Right. So, current trends continue. Whites will go from being a small minority of world population today to virtually extinct. Right. White people are on the verge of extinction. Global population of white people 100 years ago, roughly. White people be like, gotta help the minorities. At 8% of the world in 2021, whites are on the verge of extinction. That's what they're pushing. Extinction. Watch this.
Awful lot of black people talking about how white people today should be killed off for what white people did a couple of 100 years ago.
How come you have no videos of these black content creators?
Awful lot of black people talking about how white people today should be killed off for what white people did a couple of 100 years ago.
How come you have no videos of these black content creators? Huh? It's funny that you hear a lot of black folks say white people should be killed for what their ancestors did 200 years ago, but nowhere on your profile are you highlighting these certain black people that are saying that. You know why? Because you're lying. You're actually projecting your own fear. You as a white man think deep down inside, you and other white people should die for what your fucking ancestors did hundreds of years ago. Niggas ain't walking around saying that shit. Now, do some of y'all need to get fucked up? Absolutely. But if you think it's because of what your ancestors are doing, once again, white people are not seeing their own bigotry and racism, you motherfuckers are still doing it.
Awful lot of black people talking about how white people today should be killed off for what white people did a couple of 100 years ago.
How come you have no videos of these black content creators? Huh? It's funny that you hear a lot of black folks say white people should be killed for what their ancestors did 200 years ago, but nowhere on your profile are you highlighting these certain black people that are saying that. You know why? Because you're lying. You're actually projecting your own fear. You as a white man think deep.
That's what we're dealing with, people. This shit ain't a game. They are actively pushing that shit. Because all they need to do is convince enough white people. Niggas ain't gotta do nothing, bro. Niggas is not out here fucking up white people. We ain't never did that. Never. Why the fuck would that white motherfucker get on the internet and just blatantly lie like that? Why is Elon Musk doing it? Why are the preachers and the pastors doing it? They believe it. And again, we could just go back to the beginning of this video when the brother the saint pointed out the simple fact that a lot of us point out, and it's like, if you compare just last few hundred years, there's no comparison. We know who the most violent race of people on this planet is. Come on, man. Come on, man. What are we even talking about? Nobody has killed more people than white people. Came here, murdered millions and millions of Native Americans, then start killing each other instantly. Europeans versus the French versus the Spanish versus the Dutch. Everybody just killing everybody. Whole time they killing each other still over there in Spain and fucking Britain and Ireland, and these motherfuckers ain't never stopped fighting. Kill all the motherfucking Indians up on the goddamn East Coast. Start working on the ones down south. Bring some niggas over here and fuck them over. They ain't fucking the niggas over as they killing the Indians. Still shooting other Europeans in the face. The French and the Indian War, the goddamn, what did they call it? The Alamo. They're killing Spaniards and shit for, man, listen. All that shit leads up to what? A Revolutionary War. More white people killing white people. 1812. All the goddamn fights with the Native Americans in between. All the way up big old 1863, the Civil War. Mass white people killing white people. Immediately after that, right after that, you motherfuckers went into World War I. Tried to just wipe other white people up. When the fuck have black people done that? What black person has ever said, we the only pure motherfucker race, and we need to make sure everybody else dead in the motherfucker? We don't even think like that, man. It's just like with the like y'all brains is too big. Y'all think too motherfucking much. And just like Elon is saying what he's saying in this tweet, right? Where did that go? Just like what Elon's saying right here. He believes this shit, and he gonna continue to push it till he get a bunch of other people to agree with him. Just like the pastor's gonna do. We in a bad fucking spot, man. It's and again, I'm gonna just point out this last thing. We had 33 minutes. One more thing. Okay, the term, and I still don't really know what this means. Or how to say it. Drapetomania, right? Probably something you never heard of. Let's read about it. In the 19th century, enslaved African Americans who attempted to escape slavery were pathologized by some Southern physicians, most notably Dr. Samuel A. Cartwright, who coined the term drapetomania in 1851 to describe the supposed mental illness that caused enslaved people to run away. Right? Caused enslaved people to run away. Cartwright claimed that this condition was a genuine mental disorder, with the diagnostic symptom being absconding from service, and argued that the desire to escape was not a rational response to oppression but a sign of mental alienation. He asserted that drapetomania was as much a disease of the mind as any other species of mental alienation, and was much more curable than other mental illnesses, by cutting your foot off type shit. The diagnostic, let me make sure I got that. Diagnosis. Okay. Listen to this. Listen to this. The diagnosis was rooted. It was rooted in the racist ideology that slavery was a benevolent institution and that enslaved people were naturally suited to servitude. Cartwright believed that the desire for freedom was a deviation from the Creator's will. Get back to religion. It's gonna go back to what they believe, man. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Now, which he claimed had designed black people. Okay, let me read it again. Cartwright believed that the desire for freedom was a deviation from the Creator's will, which he claimed had designed black people to be submissive knee benders. To treat drapetomania, he recommended whipping the devil out of them as a preventative measure, and in extreme cases, even suggested amputation of the toes. This pseudoscientific framework was part of a broader effort to justify slavery through the lens of medical and scientific authority. Okay. Well, let's read the rest. The concept of drapetomania is now widely recognized as a clear example of scientific racism, using the guise of medical science to rationalize racial subjugation. Okay, let's read that again. Let me just replace some words. The concept of drapetomania is now widely recognized as a clear example of religious racism, using the guise of a religious science or a religious book to rationalize racial subjugation. I gotta play that clip again. Modern scholars and medical professionals, including Harvard psychiatrist Alvin Poussaint, have emphasized that such diagnoses reflect cultural and political biases rather than objective science, noting that what was labeled as mental illness was in reality a rational response to the brutality of slavery. Go figure, right? Similarly, Cartwright also described another fabricated condition, dysesthesia, whatever, to explain perceived laziness among enslaved people, further illustrating how pseudoscience was used to control and dehumanize black individuals. Okay, so we just read a lot, right? Now here we got the situation is you got people that's enslaved, getting tortured, getting treated like property, right? They see people walking around free. They got eyes, right? So they know what freedom looks like. The person who owns them is free. They get to do stuff, right? The guy who came up with this was what did they call him? Cartwright. Doctor. Cartwright is a psychologist, some type of doctor, right? So he was an intelligent guy. How crazy do you have to be in your motherfucking mind to convince your motherfucking self these hard ERs want to be free? They must be crazy. And I think I can cure it. Man, listen. Again, I'm gonna try to rap on this right here. I'm gonna play that one video one time because again, if you just switch the words out, It's the exact same thing. Like, instead of using science to justify having us slaves, the white Christian pastor, I think that video was like 3-4 months ago, is saying that they should kill black people for 3 generations because the Bible says you're supposed to do that to a disobedient son. Now, listen, man. These motherfuckers crazy. We are not in a good spot. This shit has to be studied. It has to be studied. The ability that these people have to believe whatever the fuck they want to believe is amazing. They have made themselves the victims in the country that they clearly run. They are oppressed in a country that they have every fucking opportunity. Black people in America need to be murdered for 3 generations because we shoot each other in the hood. The white people who go to war as entire countries, they don't mention that shit. It's not, I don't give a fuck about that. What was that last part? The concept of drapetomania is now widely recognized as a clear example of religious racism using the guise of religious philosophy to rationalize racial subjugation.
The actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than
whites.
Right.
And
whites are significantly greater
60% compared to 13% of
percentage
the
of the population. Yeah.
So if you take that and then you took a law like Deuteronomy 21, which is a just law that God enacted through Moses. The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child they're coming up into their manhood and they're rebellious, they don't listen. He lists some characteristics and even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the fathers to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son, and then they stone him to death. They kill him.
And an armed robber would certainly be one of those.
Oh, absolutely. Armed robber, all the ghetto culture.
Violent crimes.
Basically, take ghetto culture, it would describe this to a T. If you did that over 3 generations, how much violent crime would you have in the 3rd and 4th generation? Much, much less.
The actual number of blacks who are committing murder is more than whites. And whites are significant.
The law was that if you had a rebellious son, you have a child they're coming up into their manhood and they're rebellious, they don't listen. He lists some characteristics and even though they're disciplined, they will not turn. He says the fathers to bring them out into the town square. This is a rebellious son, and then they stone him to death.